hamsters and small hamsters amongst you. I can't see you very well, so I don't really know what's going on out there. My name's Callum Hill. I work at Edinburgh University. I work in the Forest Products Research Institute. Yes, I know, it sounds very impressive. We had a rebranding recently. We've got a new saying now. It's transforming trees, which means chopping the fucking things down. Burning them, essentially, as far as I can make out. That seems to be the strategy. Anyway, I was going to go and do a set about, well, I work in wood science, and I was going to do a set about wood science, but unfortunately Dan's done all the good jokes here. That's left is the one about the apical meristem and the Christmas tree, but I just don't think I want to do that one tonight. So I'm going to talk about something else. I'm going to talk about sustainability, and I think sustainability is an important issue. We should be living sustainably on the planet, and we should be doing the right thing. The trouble is, it's very difficult to know what the right thing is. But luckily, companies like Tesco's have very thoughtfully provided us with nice little labels when we go shopping. When we buy toothpaste, I spend hours and hours in Tesco's just trying to choose toothpaste. I'm absolutely bewildered by the choice. So I always look for the carbon footprint. And that tells you how much carbon dioxide was used in manufacturing that product, transporting that product, etc., etc. I did a lot of work in this area, carbon footprinting. As I was doing my research for this particular set, I noticed that there's one particular area that it's a very important human activity. There doesn't seem to be any information on this whatsoever. And this is a very simple act of going to the lavatory. And there seems to be no information about that on the internet. No one's done that calculation. I think it's actually a very important thing for us to know about, because we all do that. We all go to the lavatory. Now, in order to do a calculation this time, we need some data. We need to know what it is that we do when we go to the lavatory, how that might affect the environment. And we have some inputs into this system. It's called a system, the toilet. And we're obviously going to use toilet paper, aren't we? I mean, that's what I would have thought we would. And I'm looking at a particular scenario here. It's called the number 2 scenario. There is a number 1 scenario, but I'm not considering that tonight. It's only got time. And in order to do the calculations for this, I do have a carbon calculator with me. I need some raw data, and there's 2 ways of doing this. I can either do the experiment here, or I can do a survey. So I think what I will do is ask a young lady in the audience here, excuse me, what is your name? Alison. And do you go to the lavatory, Alison? Sometimes. I think that's a very brave answer. I mean, we all do go to the lavatory from time to time. I think most of us here actually do go to the lavatory from time to time. I know I do. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's important that we do realise the implications of our actions. Now, when you go to the lavatory, presume there's a number 2 scenario, don't forget, presumably you do wipe. Yes? You don't have to answer that question. I can make some numbers up in my head. Let's assume 5 wipes per sitting. And let's assume, just for the sake of argument, 5 sheets per wipe. Okay, so that makes 25 sheets of lavatory paper, and Tesco's very kindly have done the calculation for us. They put the carbon footprint per sheet of paper. I don't know why it's per sheet. If you're making a purchasing decision, surely it's per roll would be more important. So they're obviously trying to modify some aspect of human behaviour by giving that information. So we have 25 sheets, and do you use recycled toilet, not recycled toilet paper, recycled fibre? You do. So you care about the environment. You do. Okay, that's good. So Tesco's tell us that it's 1.1 grams of carbon dioxide per sheet if you use recycled fibre source. It's 1.8 if you use the softer, rather kinder stuff, which I use to pamper myself when I'm feeling a bit depressed. But we'll leave that one. Yeah, so let's just assume, for the sake of argument, that's 1 gram, because I can't do 25 times 1.1. And so it's 25 grams of carbon dioxide. 25 grams of carbon dioxide per sitting, okay? That's assuming you go once a day. Which doesn't sound that much, really, does it? But of course, we're all doing it, so it's all going to make a difference. So is there anything else we should take account of? I've got 25 grams. Well, there's the water that goes into the system that we flush, and I can't be bothered to think about that because I couldn't think of a joke about that, so ignore that. There's one other thing that might be important, and that's the act when we're on the lavatory, we might let go of a fart. And there's actually quite, seriously, and it's not funny, because there's a lot of stuff about this on the internet about sheep, cattle, and termite farts apparently are really causing problems. Termites fart more methane which is a very powerful global gas than is emitted by industry. So you know, we need to think about these things. I think about these things a lot, and you know, too much. So yeah, so what happens if we fart? I mean, I've got. I looked this up on the internet. I looked at Wikipedia, and actually I feel really guilty doing that these days. I've got the information here, but unfortunately I forgot to bring my glasses, so I'll just have to remember what's on the piece of paper. So we want to know, first of all, how much gas do you emit per day in terms of farting? And it turns out it's about 1 litre of, I don't believe that, because a litre's not very big, is it? I mean, that's, you know, it's small. I mean, I'm sure we must, anyway. It says 1 litre, so we'll go with that one because it's easier for me to do the calculation. And there's 2 types of people in this room. Did you know there's 2 types of people? There's people that put people into 2 categories, and there's all the rest. But actually there's 2 types of people when it comes to farting. Some people fart methane, and that's about 1/3 of the population. We don't really know why that is. So methane is the gas that comes through the pipes, you know, when you do cooking and stuff. It doesn't come from farts, obviously, but not unless you live in my house. But yeah, so it's a flammable gas, and it burns with a blue flame. And people that fart methane are known as the Royal Order of the Blue Flame. And this is true. You can look that up. It is true. And yeah, so there's 1/3 of the population fart methane as well as hydrogen. So you can like your farts, but don't do it. It's pretty dangerous, in fact. And methane is a very powerful global greenhouse gas. But the rest of us just fart hydrogen and oxygen and carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is obviously a greenhouse gas, so we ought to look at that one. So about 20% of your fart is carbon dioxide. If you do the calculation on that, it turns out that per day you would emit something like 0.4 grams of carbon dioxide. So it's not very significant compared with toilet paper usage. However, if you were to fart methane, if you're 1/3 of the population, so 1/3 of you, I don't know where you are, I can't see with these lights, but if you lit your farts, I could spot you immediately with a flame. 1/3 of you, and did you know that if both your parents are methane-emitting parents, then you have a 95% probability of also being a methane emitter. And we don't really know why that is. It's an interesting area of research, and I think that we should put some money into this. I've just changed my volume now. Yeah, so yeah, that's interesting. So actually, it's the toilet paper that makes the difference. So if you want to make a big difference when you go to the lavatory, don't use toilet paper. But to put this into context, 200 sheets of ordinary, soft, luxurious toilet paper, the type that I prefer, it's equivalent to 1 orange carton, which may or may not be useful information for you, I don't know. And whilst I was doing this research, I found out some interesting things about farts. One of them is that snakes fart, which I didn't know. It never occurred to me. And I thought, well, you could have a bit of fun there if you had a snake. You could maybe block put a cork in or something like that. Let it go up like a balloon. Open the window if you've got a neighbour you don't like or something, pull the cork out, the snake would go flying out the window, round and round, it'd be great. It just occurred to me as an idea of something to do. Yeah, the other thing is that the composition of farts is very much like what we call the primordial atmosphere on the Earth. Before we had photosynthesis, before the oxygenating organism came on, the Earth actually smelled like farts, okay? The early Earth, and we can't really imagine what that must have been like. But you can get some approximation to that if you actually travel on the Virgin trains on the West Coast Main Line. It's pretty close to what the early Earth must have smelled like. I think with that, I'm going to leave you. Thank you very much. You've been a very kind audience, even though I can't see you, and I certainly can't see the methane emitters amongst you, so maybe I'll meet some of you a bit later around the back. Okay, thank you very much.